Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. Social entrepreneurs in our community share their stories of how they are changing the world and building a legacy of health, wealth, happiness, and wellness. I'm your host, Wendy V, along with my co-host, Rodrigo Bravo. Together, we're social entrepreneurs building a collective of impactful humans who are going to make this world a better place. We hope you'll join us. Here's today's episode. In this episode, we talk about inspirational client stories. Sometimes it's difficult for us to continue working and be inspired by our own work because we're in the middle of it, and we forget the good work that we do to help transform other people's lives. This episode helps us remember and celebrate those transformational client stories and give us credit for the work that we've been doing. Today we'll be talking about inspirational client stories. A lot of the time we talk more about our businesses in this club and our nonprofits and the things that we're doing as social impact ventures, but we don't always talk about the things that are related to our people that we're helping and transforming and the lives that we're changing through our business. So that was what I wanted to talk about today, and to make sure that people had the opportunity to share inspirational client stories and things that might be, something that you could hear about and want to know more about that particular type of work. So that is what we're talking about today. I'm setting up the room still and getting things situated because we do use the replays for this room for our podcast. But if you're listening to the replay here on Clubhouse, welcome to the club in the room. Please make sure you join us for a lot of other conversations. And we also have a podcast that's available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So I'm going to link the top of the room with our podcast. And then Rodrigo just came up. And I wanted to say, hey, Rodrigo, how are you today?
I'm doing terrible.
Oh, no, that's not what we like to hear.
No, I'm okay. It just, I know that we have our show right now, and unfortunately, I have to pick up both my niece and my son, so I will be in the vehicle the entire time. However, this will be a great test to see how, I'm able to kind of, finagle the audio when it comes to our podcast episode. So this will be great.
Okay, well, consider this a beta episode.
How do
And
I
if it's
how do I sound? Do I sound echoey? Do I sound like and I'm in the cave or
no,
something?
you sound great to me on my AirPods. My earpods, in fact, sound really great.
Okay, well, no, that shouldn't be a problem then. So, but anyways, yeah, I'm really happy to be here as always, Wendy, the fearless leader when it comes to the Social Impact Level Up Club. I really appreciate you always holding space to make sure that we have these conversations, important conversations when it comes to entrepreneurs. And today, inspirational client stories. I think it's always good to have these stories to let folks know that the work that they do actually does benefit folks, that it does inspire change and have an impact with folks individually and as a collective. So always happy to have these types of stories. Always welcoming folks up onto the stage if they want to share their stories. They want to share their entrepreneur journey, their spirit, and what they're going through so that we all know, hey, at the end of the day, we're not alone. We're all going through this journey together. So as always, and Wendy, thank you so much for holding this space.
Only one little minor robotic point there, but you caught up, so you're good. So
I
your
am not
car
a
is
robot.
your car is a champ. Are you in the Escalade? Is that what you're rolling?
Chill. I'm gonna edit that out of the podcast.
I'm just kidding. No, Rodrigo and I have a inside joke. So this is a great one. Rodrigo and I have done some traveling together. So I was in San Antonio with Rodrigo and another friend earlier in the January timeframe, and Rodrigo happens to be a fan of Escalades. So of course, as I'm, a friend, I am talking to Rodrigo, and I says, "Hey, we were up getting gas." He goes inside. I said, "Hey, Rodrigo, there's an Escalade pulling up." he just walks in like, on a mission to pay. In fact, he even forgot to buy our waters that we requested, right? So he goes in, he pays, he comes out. Well, meanwhile, as I'm walking up, I'm looking at the Escalade. The Escalade guy starts talking to me. I think he thinks that I'm interested in him or the Escalade, right? I'm neither one. I'm trying to point them out to Rodrigo. We'll point the car out to Rodrigo. And so I go inside. He starts talking to me even more while I'm in line to buy something. And then I walk out and he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's for sale. Do you want to come and take a look at it?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." I still couldn't figure out if he was trying to kidnap me or if he was trying to sell me an Escalade. But either way, my point is, Rodrigo has left me hanging before and not been looking out for my welfare. And that's why I'm clowning him about this Escalade.
That is not true, but no, that's a good story actually. Yeah, that was something else. Yeah, I am a Cadillac fanatic though. Both of my cars are Cadillacs, so yeah, but both of my vehicles are Cadillacs. So yes, I do enjoy that. But anyways, yes, the whole point of it is that we had a good time and that I did not look. Look, Wendy's alive. Okay, that was months. That was a month ago, or a month or 2 months ago. So Wendy is alive. She's well. So obviously I can take care of my friends when they come over and visit. So that's a survival story, friend survival story that we can share
Yes,
on the Social Impact Level Up Club at some point.
we. I survived Rodrigo's driving too for a very interesting Austin trip back and forth from San
I am an
Antonio. So
excellent
yes,
driver, Wendy. Stop spreading this rumor.
I am not spreading. I'm not spreading blasphemy on these clubhouse streets. I survived, right? But I appreciate
Hmm.
you. So welcome
Hmm.
everybody who's here today. We are talking about inspirational client stories, and I wanted to have this room, like I said at the top of the room, because there's a lot of times we talk about the business aspect in this club, or we talk about the things that we are doing in helping our business grow or develop, but we don't always want to share, or sometimes don't find it appropriate to share client stories because of HIPAA or other privacy types of issues that we don't want to mess with. So that being said, we still don't want to mess with those. And in this context, I would love to hear people tell stories from their work. So those of you who are here, if you can think about stories, I'm going to start inviting you up as I get ready to tell my story. And you guys can definitely come and chill. And if you want to share a story when I'm done, you can feel free to do that. And this is, I wanted to tell multiple stories in this room today. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because I think that we've all done a lot of different types of work. And as you have done different types of work, you might have different interesting stories. So I wanted to start with one from a long, long time ago, early in my career. I worked with young people who had been in a home that would have exposed them to domestic violence under the age of like 14 to like 3-ish years old, somewhere around there. And I had a variety of different types of young people. So different ages, male, female, different developmental levels, all, and there was probably about 6 of them or so on my total caseload. So one little boy, he had 2 parents, and both of his parents had bipolar disorder. And so there's, obviously a genetic predisposition possibly that this young person could then eventually develop the disorder as well. So, in, mental health, you always want to try to make sure that the conditions that young people are in are going to help them thrive, and that if there is a predisposition genetically, that you're trying to counteract that with supports and, services and case management or whatever it is. So this young person was in a family that had a number of folks helping. And the case manager came to me and said, "Hey, I really think that he needs to be in something. And we need to try to figure out if maybe play therapy and what you're doing is helpful to him." And I said, "Okay, let's try it out. What's the harm?" So I met with his parents, actually really nice people. And they're talking about their experience going through the different systems and how they're trying to bring their family together. And talking with the son, and what they're experiencing with the teacher and his behavior, it's very apparent that he hadn't been able to attach to a lot of people. And he really didn't have a lot of connection to his own emotions and understanding what his emotions were or how he processed them or what was happening with him. Sometimes he'd be angry and he wouldn't express it appropriately. So, all kinds of different things happening with him. But most importantly, he really couldn't attach to people.
And that is something that can be sometimes a problem with people who have various mental illnesses. So, not trying to diagnose him before he became, whatever age he needed to be to say a proper assessment, right? So, no one could say, yes, he possibly might develop bipolar disorder, and that's why he's acting this way. In fact, nobody should say that because it's not really scientifically appropriate, right? Or age appropriate or even diagnostically appropriate. But what we were noticing was that as teachers and other people, adults in his life came into the sphere, he had difficulty really accepting and connecting and talking and sharing with older people. So I was still relatively young in my career. So I'm, trying to approach this from a young person's perspective of how do I connect as a new adult to this very, very young child. So we started talking and doing our play therapy, and every session would be a little bit more difficult and more difficult to try to get him to break out of his shell, as he would just keep the same exact experience every single time. He'd come in, he'd play, I would interact, very short questions, very short answers. I'd give a little bit of information, try to educate a bit, and then connect, and just anything I could do to get this child to engage with me. And I didn't always obviously see the benefit to him because I was only there in his life for an hour a week, right? So hour a week is not a long time to really think that you can, one, put transformation in place, but two, also assess if you're actually making transformation or progress or not. So as we came to the end of our sessions, because I was going to be transitioning out of my role, it was my first year in grad school. So we only do our clinical year in the first year of social work, and then I went on to do other things. And so that was the end of this clinical year. So I had to stop working there. And I said to him, okay, well, this is going to be our last session. Explained what was going on and all of the details about, he would have somebody else to connect with and blah, 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 all of the things that you need to say to transition a client. And we started making necklaces, and he wanted to work with beads. So we're working with beads and we're putting them together and we're playing and playing and we're talking. And then I was like, okay, now we're at our end of our session, and here's what I made. What did you make? And he's talking to me about it and stuff. And then he goes, oh, I made this for you so that you don't forget me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this kid is so great. I love this kid. And to this day, every single workspace, including, I think it's here right now. Yeah, actually, I probably have it here. I keep that same necklace with me in every single job. Every single time I have a new desk, it's one of the very first things that I put onto my desk because it reminds me that people, one, do have a transformation when you work with them, even when you don't see it. And two, that people will want you to remember their story or remember them or remember how you've transformed their life. And I think that's important for us to be able to talk to each other about these stories of transformation and to share, because in that, not only is there inspiration for those of us who are trying to transform lives to continue transforming, but also there's this sense of accomplishment and things that we should be proud of, that we are doing this work as social entrepreneurs, because it does come with its own other things. Like, I can't always see the results of my efforts, but when you do see the results of your efforts, it can be so powerful and so moving and so life-changing that it's really, really important work. So that's why we talk about social impact. Thanks for being here today. This was our room where we want to talk about inspirational client stories. And I know Santiago just joined us, so welcome, Santiago. Welcome. It's Garish, by the way, pronounce it correctly. And and I wanted to just say, hey, to everybody who's listening in, if you want to come in and talk with us, David, Denai, Monica, Alan, or Ale, feel free to raise your hand and I will bring you up. So Rodrigo, feel free to comment on anything I shared, but also just when you want to share your story, feel free to share your story.
Yeah, you really, the type of story that you just shared right now, that's really what we're here for, right? To help others, to serve in any capacity that we can. And it's always great to have that reminder. Sometimes we get stuck in the rigmarole where we're, battling the day in and day out, uh, things that we have to really encounter, right? Whether it's paying our bills, the invoices, dealing with a client, whatever the case may be. But it's always a beautiful thing when you can remember why you're doing the work, right? What's your purpose? Why am I so invested in doing what I'm doing right now? And you need those reminders, you need those little mementos. Someone may look at it and say like, what's that? And it has a special meaning to you. And so I really love that you did that. I'm guilty of that myself. I am definitely a person that holds on to stuff. It reminds me of what I've been through and what I'm supposed to be doing. One of my mementos that I have is a letter that I received. I received a letter one time from a patron of the service. So I used to be a director of facilities maintenance there at Metro in Houston, Texas, for the transportation company. And so when we would get reports of folks, they would say like, hey, this shelter has trash in it. This trash can has graffiti on it. A variety of reports that we would get in. A lot of times folks, they see it as something as like, oh my god, this person's reporting this and reporting this. But this lady, Miss Ashcroft, what's her name, she would report it constantly and report it constantly, and there was probably about 8 bus stops that she continuously kept reporting about. And she would report them, and I would see them, and my team would even remark like, oh my gosh, Miss Ashcroft again, I can't believe this. Da, da, da. I was like, no, this is good. This helps us identify where the issues are at. She's another set of eyes. There was a time when she reported something and we didn't have enough information. So I called her back on the number, and I told her like, hey, Miss Ashcroft, how you doing? My name is Rodrigo Bravo, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God, thank you so much for calling. Yes, it's actually this bus stop, and it's this, and this, and this, and that. Got the information down, created the work order, dispatched it out to my team. They took care of it within 24 hours. Ms. Ashcroft gave me a call. She started reporting the complaints directly to me, and I told her, no, wait a second, wait a second. The way you're reporting them already is good enough. Okay, please call directly to the helpline. They have the personnel and the staff to take care of that. They will do a great job. And da, 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 da. Well, what happens if they don't do it? I said, well, if they don't do it or something goes off, then you can call me. But if not, it's okay. Look, you've submitted hundreds of reports already. I appreciate you. And she said something during that conversation. She goes, oh, you know what? Sometimes I feel like y'all probably just see me as this old lady that's just cranky and has nothing better to do than to report bus stops, issues at the bus stops. And I said, no, 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 you're another set of eyes and blah, 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 blah. And so once that phone call was done, I didn't call her back. I wrote a letter to her. And I told her, hey, I appreciate what you do. The Metro is better because of people like you, concerned citizens that take the time to report these issues. And I said some other stuff. And the only thing that I could give her were stickers. We had some Metro stickers and a little tchotchke. And so that's what I did. I think it was a keychain or a USB drive. I don't know, something like that. And I sent her the letter, and I signed it and whatnot, and that was it, right? And 3 weeks later, I get a package in the mail, and it's Miss Ashcroft, and she wrote a letter to me. She goes, "This is the most amazing thing I have received in years." And I was like floored. I was like, "Years?" And she wrote. She goes, "I don't have my kids don't live with me anymore. They're older. They don't talk to me anymore. My husband's passed away quite years ago. I don't really get out too much. My friends aren't there." So that's why I go out and I see these things, and I report these issues at the bus stop. I report things with the city of Houston, and I report things with Harris County. And this letter you sent me meant so much because it means that the work that I'm doing, it's appreciated. And oh my God, it broke my heart. I was like, oh my God. And she sent me a picture. She enclosed a picture in that letter where she framed the letter that I sent her. And
Uh-oh, Rodrigo, I think you cut out on my end. I can't actually hear you. Santiago, can you hear him? No. Uh-oh, I think we lost Rodrigo right at the end of this story. Like, no, I want to hear the rest of the story. Well, we'll get back to Rodrigo's story. I wanted to comment on it. One, oh my gosh, amazing to hear about how you're changing this woman's life by just, saying a simple thank you letter. Rodrigo, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I got a phone call and then it messed with my Bluetooth and everything. Very, very quickly, I didn't realize the impact that that letter had. You know, Miss Ashcroft poured her heart out on the reply back letter, and it really just touched me because honestly, I wrote those letters, and oftentimes I wrote them almost like a zombie, right? Because I had a lot of people that I would interact with and engage with, and so I wrote the letters, very standard letter, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I'm probably even copy pasted about 80% of that letter, you know, and then I added some personal note to the bottom of the letter and explained this and that. But I took the time to engage with her and let her know that we did appreciate that, and that letter was everything to her. Every time she would call in, she made it a point and said, "And can you please let Mr. Bravo know I'm so happy that he's doing this and doing that." And she would compliment me every time she would meet, go to the board meeting. She gave me props, and it was all because I just acknowledged her. I let her feel she felt seen with that letter. And when I carry around that picture and I put that picture up, I don't have a desk per se now, right? My living room is my desk, but that I have that in my little keepsake box because it reminds me of how important it is to let people know that hey, I see you, I see you, and the work that you do, what the actions that you're taking, and the involvement that you have within our community or just within my life is important, and I need to acknowledge it, and I need to make sure and let you know that I appreciate you.
Oh man, that's a great story. And I do appreciate how you've also then kept the thing that she sent back to you because it meant that her appreciating that also meant for you that you were seen as well for your efforts and for what you're doing. Mad props to Houston because I will say the city of Houston lived in a lot of places and I've had a lot of reporting to do. And I almost feel like this woman, I am that neighbor who's like, I'm sorry, this light is not working. And I have experienced here in Houston where there was something out of sync in an intersection that meant that pedestrians could not cross a very, very busy parkway. And I've called, and exactly like Rodrigo says, they actually do address things here in Houston. So props to the city for doing that level of work to really maintain, what they can, because it is important to the public to be safe, and public safety is, has the various impact on our community and the well-being of our communities. And so this woman is really contributing to our community wellness by telling folks, hey, something's wrong over here and you need to address it, and I have tax dollars that are going towards this, so I need you to come and fix it. And I appreciate those people because I am one of those people. So welcome Santi, welcome Ale. What's up, Rodrigo?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And very, very quickly, I think it's really important to never underestimate the engagement that folks have with you. I'm guilty of that myself. You know, I kind of take it for granted sometimes when somebody is actively doing something that will benefit us or benefits them or whatever. I'm guilty of that, and I need to do a better job of that. But when we do that, and we do engage, and we appreciate, it makes a big difference in folks. And as entrepreneurs, we can definitely do a great job at that with the clients that we meet and with the folks that we network with, and let them know that the work that they're doing is important.
And one of the things that's cool about my job is that I get to support people who are doing cool stuff that's helping other folks. So Ale is one of those people. So hi Ale, how are you? And do you want to tell us an inspiring story about your work or someone you've helped transform their life, or just say hi?
Sure, sure, sure. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about the work that I do, right? My 9 to 5, as I call it. And it's funny because I spent the last year and a half working towards, leaving my 9 to 5. But it's bittersweet. It's hard to say because my job is very, very fulfilling. And I love my job. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I do because I feel like I live and I experience inspiring stories every single day in my job. And I work with the elderly community, right? I have a caseload of right now I'm at 63, and what I do is that I make sure that these elderly individuals are living independently at home. And when I get them, these are referrals that come from the state. When I get them, they are living sometimes in deplorable conditions. They sometimes haven't eaten days. They have no one to take care of them. They suffer from incontinence and they have no supplies, no diapers, nobody to help them bathe. So I go in there and I assess them and I fight to get them as much help as possible, whether it's diapers and meals on wheels and bathing and cleaning and deep chore, and I get them ramps to be able to leave their home whenever they want on their wheelchair. And it's very fulfilling, Wendy, to go back 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, and see the difference that these services have made. And I've since 2008, I've always worked in social services, right? And I've worked with so many different populations. I worked with children, and I worked with adults. I worked with blind kids and people in the spectrum. I work with every single population, and to me, working with the elderly is has been my favorite, because imagine these people, right, that spend their whole lives taking care of others, whether it was their spouse or their children, or social services jobs, their 9 to 5, whatever. They spend their whole lives taking care of them, of taking care of others, and then they find themselves in their last years of their lives alone with nobody to take care of them. And then they see me, which, mind you, I'm not like, oh, Ale, no. But imagine what it is to see that one person that shows them that they matter, that shows them that they are enough, and that shows them that they are worthy of living with dignity till their last breath. To them, that is so valuable, and it's also for me. So I live inspiring stories every single day, and sometimes because I've done this for so many years, I maybe become like whatever about it. But then I come in rooms like these and I'm reminded of the importance of the work that I do. So yeah, that's what I do, and I absolutely love it.
And here I was
I'm complete.
thinking that Ale was just a professional moderator on Clubhouse for a 9 to 5, but I guess not. No, she's
Yes.
actually has a real job. Yeah, no, Ale is one of our crew and our favorites, and thank you for being here. I love what you said, because I work on the other side of the spectrum a lot more, where I'm working with young people and really trying to mold them to be able to have a fulfilling life like you
Yeah.
described, and then working
Wendy,
on the
hold
other
on.
side.
Don't
Oh,
say
you go
too
for it.
much because I'm getting a call.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Well, Ale's getting a call, but I'm going to keep talking. I love how she's like, don't talk without me. So when Ale was talking about working on the other side of the age spectrum, I personally had not understood what that looks like until I had to take care of my grandmother at the end of her life, and how difficult it is for family members to actually care for our older generations. And I'm getting a poor signal thing, so hopefully you can hear me. But the family really does have a lot of pressure, and if you're not a caring, loving family with a lot of resources, or even the ability, the time, and the money to take care of someone, it's very difficult to make sure that they are physically and mentally and emotionally supported. And I think that you're right, Ale. A lot of people don't step up to the level that they probably could and need support, but they don't always know how to ask for it or where to get it. And so people like you who are able to connect and support those families through that time period, it's really important. So thank you for doing that and for sharing your story. I appreciate you. I don't know if you're back, LA, and you want to say anything else. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back, Wendy. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for a room like this, because it reminds people of, that there are inspiring stories out there, and everything we do, what everybody does is important, you know?
Yeah, and Ale is one of my inspiring stories, because I always talk about how she's developing her business through her side hustle, quote unquote, of helping people to on their self-love and confidence journey. And Ale, just seeing Ale form that part of her identity in her business, and how she's putting together these monthly workshops that people are coming to and bringing in a bunch of speakers and things. And it's really neat to see what Ale is doing to support others through their health and wellness journey
Thank
also.
you, Wendy. And I always quote you. I really do. And FYI, I'm really excited because I still have another week to promote my workshop. And I already have 30 people signed up. Rodrigo said, as long as you get 30% that who show up, it's a success. And so far, they've been a success. And the one for next week, I already have 30 people. I'm shooting for 40 people. And then a third, I don't know. I don't do math. Rodrigo's a math guy. What is that? Like
Rodrigo, what is
15?
that?
I don't know.
uh,
I don't even know what equation you're asking me to solve, but I think more appropriately, Ale, I think it's beautiful that you're able to find purpose and and joy in the work that you do as your 9 to 5. One of the things that for me as an entrepreneur has been difficult was finding that joy, right? My 9 to 5 is I'm sorry, my entrepreneurial spirit right now is more of a helping others through my passion, right? Through the work that I do. But it isn't as apparent sometimes because it does combine, what I'm for and what I'm not. Um, Yikes. I actually have to log off really quick. Be right back.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining, Jessica. So, but back to what we were talking about with Ale. I think it's cool, Ale, also to see someone who does enjoy their 9 to 5. Sometimes when we choose entrepreneurship, it's because you are feeling trapped or you don't want to be in that situation anymore. But to see you be able to like balance it and also have a presence here in Clubhouse and grow your following and growing all these other things that you're doing at the same time, it's nice to watch. So I always love to lift up Ale and what she's doing because she's also one of my success stories of how I'm able to make an impact in supporting someone else's work. Do you want to say anything, Ale? You good? Okay.
No, love you.
Is that
I'm
what I
clapping.
Oh, okay. She's over there clapping. Hey, Jessica. Hey, Alan. And I just wanted to welcome everybody to the room. If you're just joining us, we're talking about inspirational client stories. And we're sharing just what's going on with our work that we've done in the past that might be cool for people to hear about as they're going through their journey and want to be lifted up. So, Jessica, what do you want to share?
Um, there's a lot, but I'll go with. I think Ali has been probably one of my most inspirational clients because
I
I've,
agree too. I'm like
yes,
everybody's success stories.
you are.
The growth that I've experienced in the last year, I don't know, like I have no words. And it's been thanks to you guys, honestly. For soon, I'm gonna be Alan's success story too.
Oh, Lord. No, but I mean, I will say that it does mean a lot when you have individuals who are willing to believe in your dream enough to invest in it in some way, whether it's time or money, energy. And LA has done all of those things. And I feel like that has kind of even grown our friendship. And two, just seeing her implement that in her own journey with her business has been really cool. And thank you, baby. Um, and you know, my business will be officially a year old, I think, in 2 months. I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but you know, I feel like I've done a lot in a year, and I'm not the same person. Um, it's also allowed me to redirect a lot of where I want to spend my time and energy. Um, you know, and Clubhouse has so many like free resources available. It's all just about that intentionality behind it. So I think even for me, like the fact that I am not quitting, that's a huge thing for me because I feel like when it comes to my dreams, I've always waited for the ball to drop. And so the fact, ow, 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 baby, you're hurting me. The fact that I've been doing it, and oh, I love you too. Thank you. The fact that I've been doing it despite wanting to quit a million times, I'm proud of myself for that because I feel like if it was me like 2 years ago, I just would have been like, fuck it, get a 9 to 5 and call it a day. But I also am realizing that my why is because of my children. And I was in another room earlier and they were talking about your why not being the reason why you can't. So, like, I have kids, and I could sit here and say all day, I can't do X, Y, and Z because my kids are always interrupting me. But what I've done is like right now, entrepreneurship looks so different for me because I am a mom to two toddlers who are very loud and disruptive and who want me all the time. And I think that for me, it's like, okay, when I find those pockets of time, instead of, being neurotic and cleaning my house, I've been focusing on the fact that it takes a single penny to get to a dollar, and if that's adding all those pennies together, then that's what happens. And so I think for me, you know when I get those clients who say that what I'm doing is helping them, it just continues to inspire me, but also it makes me realize that, like, I'm gonna be the first millionaire in my family. That's my goal, to be the first millionaire in my family. So yeah, I hope that was on subject.
Yeah, no, and it's great to connect your why to the stories of what's happening in your business and around you so that you can keep going and moving towards that purpose. And I love, one of your whys is definitely to create the generational wealth and healing and the thriving for your young ones who are always with us on Clubhouse. And I think it's fun to hear, you connecting all of that and see as you're developing your business how you're able to then also help other people heal in those same ways. So always cool to have you, Jessica. And hey, Alan, do you want to share anything about your experience?
Hi, yes. So as you guys were telling your guys' stories, I was thinking like, man, what should I share? What should I share? What should I share? And there was one of my first construction projects came up to mind. Um, my role, I was a fresh out of college, entry-level engineer, not much experience. And so my responsibilities weren't that big or that critical. Uh, I'll take the critical with a grain of salt because I was in charge of quality control, quality insurance, and this was for a parking structure. And so I was on the side when they began excavation. At some point, it was like a really big hole. And a couple months ago, I went to downtown and I saw that they had finished construction. The parking structure is active, and it was like, oh my God, like, just seeing like so many people going in and out, all the vehicles parked. It's like, oh my God, like sometimes we do not realize that, hey, we are part of something bigger, and sometimes our role seems like mundane or not that important, but in the bigger picture, you need every single piece of the puzzle to fit in to make things work. Because if something is kind of like out of whack, then the whole system is out of whack.
And
Uh,
now people have a safe place to park their cars and to do their business in that area, which is cool. And you can actually physically see your work.
exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like I thought that was kind of inspirational. Like you don't see it, but like once you take a few steps back, you realize like, oh wow, there's a lot of moving parts, and there's actually an impact.
Yeah, for my work, I often say it's difficult because in prevention, there isn't a physical thing you can see. You kind of get the return on your investment much later. So even time-wise, when you invest early, you can't see it for a long time. So it's difficult to say, oh, in 5 years, you're going to see this new building that's going to pop up in this space. But with you and what you do, it's always a cool thing to see physically that there is a new structure here, or there's something being accomplished. And I love that because you forget other people's experiences with the work that they do. So thank you for sharing that, Ellen. So I know we have about 20 more minutes. I wanted to see if Sophia or Denai, feel free to come up and talk with us. I'll invite you guys both up. But I have one other story that I was going to share. It's actually not from, and again, I've been shared stories from my current business. These are all stories and stuff that I've done over the years. But I used to live in Uganda, and I don't even think I've really explained myself when I say that I lived in Uganda to this group. And I just kind of mentioned, oh yeah, I used to live in Africa, and I lived in a village, and like that's the extent of what I mentioned. But I came to that experience by wanting to go abroad in grad school, and I applied to a particular program because I knew they had an international component. And I was able to enroll in that particular concentration that is international social welfare policy for immigrants and refugees. So my technical master's degree is in a very like niche particular field of a very particular field. And I didn't know what I was going to do with that. Come to find out, I have done a lot of things with it. But one thing I wanted to do was immediately to leave this country. That was the first goal, was use this degree as a way for me to go study abroad. So when I was making that choice, I was looking at all the choices of countries that I could go to. And my advisor said something to the effect of, why would you go to Belize when you could go somewhere much better? And not by better, she didn't mean like a cooler place or whatever, but somewhere where you're going to have a more authentic experience of what social work would look like in an international scale. And I said, oh, that makes sense. That's what this point of this second year is supposed to be. So these are both of my years of grad school and telling stories. And so the second year, instead of working in New York, where I was at, I ended up going to Uganda. And I was working with a professor who was doing a microfinance intervention who was Ugandan, and he still works in the same community. And so we went to this community, and he said on my behalf, hey, I have this student. It's the first student that I've ever had gone to work in Uganda with this type of program from Colombia. Eventually, they kind of formalized it. And I was the trial. So they're like, okay, well, yeah, we'll house her, we'll feed her, we'll give her electricity and running water, and she'll live here in the parish. So I show up, a couple months later with all my shots and my passport and my 100 pounds of luggage with a lot of stuff I didn't really need and a lot of stuff I didn't bring that I should have got. And I show up in Uganda with these priests who pick me up, drive me 5 hours, and we live in a village for 6 months. And it's not really a village, it's more of a trading center, which is just above a village, which means it's slightly bigger. It has its own market, has a main road, like all these different other sort of designations of urbanness. And as I was working and living in this parish, I got to know the young men who help make sure that the parish runs. Because just like anywhere else, there's kind of the help or the staff that help make sure that this place is working. And so he was one of the young people who was part of the parish, and he lived down the road, and he worked all the time with the priests to kind of do different errands, right? So there was this one young man, another young man who lived even further out, and he also had the same sort of role. And the two of them together were very helpful. And so one of the things they would do for me is to bring my bath water, which, because as I got to Uganda, they had a drought. So that meant there was no running water and no power coming to my room, because power is generated by water. Go figure. So when I got there, I had food and I had shelter, but the rest of those things that they promised were not there. And so one of the things that had to happen was I had to bucket shower in the very dark bathroom that sometimes had spiders, sometimes had roaches, you never knew. And the way that I would get my warm water was these young men would come and bring me this huge can that looks like the things that you fill when you lose when you run out of gas and you go take the little can to the gas station and bring it back. It's a big version of that. They call them jerry cans, and they would bring a big warm and a cold one every night. And the cold one was obviously to flush your toilet, but not necessarily to brush your teeth, for example. But the warm one, you could, just make sure you closed your mouth and whatever. You could shower with it, could run on your face and all that stuff. So I would, use these two different giant 5-gallon cans of water to do whatever I needed to do in my little room, right? And so there I was, going this whole 6 months doing this whole bathing process. So, which I would never have been able to do had these young men not every night brought me water, right? But beyond that, there was other things that they showed me, cultural things, and they would take me into the market and show me different things, and we would talk and have all these conversations. So they were also just like confidence and understanding the culture and the language and how things worked in Uganda. So at the end of my time there, when I went to go back to the US, one of the things I asked them is, well, how can I help you and your families? Because they had done so much for me while I was there. And one of them said, well, both of them, I ended up helping them with their school fees, which school fees is a big deal in other countries where it's not free to go to school. And you need to do things like buy, uniforms and other things that you just can't pay for, but also school costs money. So I pay for their school fees and give them extra money for different things that they needed related to school. So I did this for years early in my career. I mean, I was hardly making anything, but I would still send money to these 2 young men in Uganda because they were so thoughtful and smart, and I thought that they really did deserve to have the best opportunity they could have. So I would just send them, a wire money, a couple $100 every however often I could, right? And various things came up. One of them, their family's pit latrine caved in. So then there I was like, okay, let's buy your family a pit latrine. So over the course of the years, we developed this really great relationship. And later on, as they went through, one of them went through the seminary and the other one eventually went through education and an art school, they've come back to me multiple times and expressed how grateful they were that I supported them at that part of their life because they were not able to find other supports to keep doing the things that they wanted to do to grow and to thrive and to be the best version of themselves. And now, as even as difficult as it is living in Uganda as adults, they both are in better positions than they would have been if I hadn't been willing to help them. And they've come back so many times and just been so super grateful to me. And I often don't think about it because to me it was like, oh, so I won't go and like eat out for a couple weeks and I'll send you some money. It wasn't like a super big it wasn't like I was putting myself out of not eating myself in order to send this money, but it was something that I really believed in. And I'm grateful to them for having kind of upheld their part of the bargain of putting in the work to do the development, to actually get to where they are now and to be able to send me their, their stories about their family. And one of them has a daughter and the other one's, actually a priest, and he is working in the church and all the things that he wanted to do. And so that's my other inspirational story from Uganda that I thought was fun to share. So anyone wants to say anything else? I know Christina, you popped in and Omar popped in. We're talking about any inspirational stories from our work. And so feel free to come and join us if you want to share anything. But we're going to get ready to close up the room pretty soon. Do you guys have anything else you want to share? No, well, it looks like Rodrigo's on the phone. Ali and Jessica, or Alan, do you guys have anything else that you want to say today? And then if not, we'll just end up closing up the room a little bit early.
I just wanted to say, Wendy, that this was a great room. Sometimes you just need those rooms, those stories that are just gonna inspire you, So I loved it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. All right, so this is the Social Impact Level Up Club. If you didn't know, we have a podcast that we do with this club. You can feel free to follow us on Spotify or Apple. We would appreciate it. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. From me, Wendy V, and my co-host Rodrigo Bravo, we sincerely appreciate your follows, your likes, your subscribes, and your shares. Make sure that you're reaching out to us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day, and remember, keep changing the world.